So we're very excited today to have Peter Freeman. Peter Freeman has been one of our clients at Pelvic Heal, one of our coaching clients. And no, he's not getting ready to rob a bank. He is coming on out of the kindness of his heart in somewhat of a disguise today, because what we're about to discuss is very sensitive and understandably so. He doesn't want to be recognized by any friends, family, or people that may know him with the things that we're about to share. So, Peter, thank you. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem. And thanks again for, letting disguise myself a little bit because, all of this sexual dysfunction stuff, it's kind of very intimate. It's, so thanks for letting me
We
put on the mask.
understand, and not a problem. So why don't we start there, since you mentioned it? Um, just so the audience knows, Peter, you are in Germany. I'm in the United States. We'll get to a little bit later how you found us and how you found Pelvic Heal. But before we get to that, if you don't mind just sharing a little bit about your story and your struggle and kind of what you've been through and what actually happened to you to bring you to the point of searching for some help.
Yeah, well, thing was, almost a year ago, I I met up with a woman, with a girl I met on a dating app. And so, well, as things go, um, we went at it, and everything was kind of going the usual, and it was going normal. But then, for some reason, during intercourse, I cannot, to this day, I cannot explain what exactly was going on, but I could feel that something was just kind of off, and it was strange, and I had no idea, even during that. And though, so, we finished, and after that, you know, went home, and the next day, well, yeah, it was, everything began. It hurt in the beginning, and it looked strange down there. And so, yeah, at first I was thinking just, oh, well, maybe, maybe it was like a bit too aggressive or whatever. But yeah, at the end of the day, it wasn't it wasn't a thing that would only last 1 or 2 days, and it lasted a couple of almost like 2 weeks before I reached out to a urologist and
Mm-hmm.
asked him, try to get an opinion. And he looked at it and was, no, no, you're fine. You're just stressed out, and maybe you need some rest. And he, prescribed me, painkillers like ibuprofen, sorry. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, after that, went home and just, try to relax, try to don't, let it get into my head too bad. And yeah, but for some
Okay.
reason, things, okay, sorry.
No, excuse me. Go ahead.
No, yeah, things didn't change. And so, yeah, I was kind of freaked out in the beginning. And so I tried to do my own research, went online, and yeah, apparently found out what was going on and went through the forums. And these forums, they freak you out even more, and I began to panic, and it was like a very psychological downward spiral, which put me into very, very dark places. And at the end I was just still trying to find a solution for it, and yeah, try to get
Okay.
some physical therapy.
Okay. And in the beginning, when you first kind of experienced some discomfort and some disformity and sexual dysfunction down there, Peter, what did the discomfort or the pain feel like in the beginning? I'm just curious.
Well, it was, yeah, the pain thing is, and that was also like very scary in the beginning. It was just the right side of my member and in the pelvic floor. And the
Mm,
thing about the pelvic floor was that in the beginning it felt kind of like if you go to the gym and you do, I don't know, an exercise, a bench press or so, and you like do it with kind of improper form, and the next day you wake up and you kind of feel like you did it with an improper form, and it's a kind of, it's a mix of like pain, stinging, burning, and like a bad muscle ache also. And that was how the pain felt like in the beginning. And I was trying to um, relieve the pain with heat, with the hot showers.
mm.
And in the beginning, the pain kind of went away for a few minutes, hours, but unfortunately it came back, and also the sexual dysfunction also came back.
And that's interesting. I'm curious. So the pain would come and go, the sexual dysfunction would come and go. How long, Peter, did you struggle with that kind of those
Mhm.
symptoms being in and out like that, coming and
Yeah,
going?
yeah. Well, the thing was the pain, and that was, in the beginning, it was like because it was like a kind of like also like needles.
Mm,
And the thing was, it kind of subsided after a few weeks, maybe 2 3 weeks. Like the needle feeling got away, um, and what was left after about 4 weeks was kind of this muscle ache feeling, like. But you know, what was left was the sexual dysfunction. And,
hmm
the combination of that was like extremely scary, even though the pain like slowly but surely kind of went away.
Yeah. So it sounds like not only was it pain, sexual dysfunction, but also anxiety,
Of
fear
course,
that
100%.
comes along with that because you're a young man. What's your age?
30.
30 years old. Okay. So talk to me a little bit about the steps that you took before reaching out to Pelvic Heal and before receiving some coaching from us. You mentioned going to the urologist. What are some things, Peter, that you tried to do to alleviate this, whether it was medications, techniques, therapies?
Mm. Well, in the beginning, as I mentioned, first few, yeah, the first 2 weeks, I think it was the first 2 weeks, I did like nothing. I was like, okay, good. Maybe it will go away on its own. But then, finally went to the urologist, used ibuprofen, painkillers. After that, again, as I mentioned, I went to the forums and saw stuff like pelvic floor stretches, hot showers, which I used before. I knew about this pelvic floor stretches. And I try to do these stretches in because there's like no real, at least that's what I didn't found any kind of instruction on which stretch I should do the first. And
Mm.
there's like no like like plan how to do it. And I found also stuff like reverse Kegeling and meditation and deep belly breathing, all this kind of stuff. And so, that's what I tried.
So it sounds, and this is very common with myself and many of our clients. We're going online, we're searching for answers. It sounds to me like you were trying a bunch of different things and maybe running into some contradictory suggestions. Is that kind of what you found? Like different people saying to do different things and no real plan or structure as far as how to resolve this.
The first thing what I experienced when I got online were all these horror stories that I found. Like one horror story after the other. Like there were people like saying, yeah, it started like, I don't know, like 10 years ago, and it started with slight pain, but now I can't even urinate properly and I can't get an erection anymore for like, I don't know, 5 years. Nothing helped me. Even high doses of Viagra or any other, PDE5 inhibitors, that's
Hmm.
the first thing you come across. And, you know, the thing is, if you try to search for answers and try to find a solution, because apparently the doctor, um, or doctors in my case, because, I went to, I think it was one, two, yeah, at the end of the day, I went to like four urologists or so. They can't
Wow.
help you. They don't take you seriously, all this kind of stuff. And, oh no, it's normal. It's all in your head. Don't freak out about it. And so, you try to do things on your own, but you come across like these horror stories and people who are experiencing these terrible symptoms for like several years with no end in sight. And so you kind of, yeah, you kind of, that's at least what I was thinking, in the beginning, like, yeah, it's over. I'm done. There's no way out. And, yeah, it's extremely hard to, yeah, to stay in a good frame of mind, because again, this is, at least in my country, it's, you go to doctors and there's, oh, here's some painkillers all in your head, go home. And, yeah, it's nobody exactly knows how to treat you or to give you some good advice or so.
So it sounds like there's a lot of frustration, a lot of different doctors and specialists that you went to. And if I'm understanding you correctly, you said you actually had a doctor tell you that it's all in your head, that the
Yeah,
pain and the
yeah.
dysfunction. I'm just curious, when you had a medically trained doctor tell you this is all in your head, what did that feel like?
Well, the thing is, this is in my case, and it's at least for me. I'm not kind of, I don't have a very high opinion of doctors in general, because, well, yeah, I mean, they went through medical school. They're so-called experts in their field, hopefully, but most of the time they just treat you via specific plan they have, and if it doesn't work, they kind of send you home, or just, most of the times they don't even say, yeah, just try to get a second opinion. I had a doctor who was in front of me, and he just, meh, he did like this, and that was,
Mm,
where I realized again that, doctors, either they are unwilling to help, or they can't help.
understood. And there are many reasons why. It sounds like it's not just in the United States, but many other Western countries, there's issues with the medical system and the way things operate. So, Peter, take me through the time now. You're looking online, you're searching for answers, you're going through forums. People are very anxious and depressed and sometimes suicidal on there. How much time now is going by where you're still struggling with sexual dysfunction, pelvic pain, and things like that?
Yeah. Well, let me think back. It must have been in, yeah, maybe it was, the begin. No, not even, no. July maybe, and in July, the pain almost like completely subsided, but I was left with, you know, sexual dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned, I went to the urologist and he prescribed me PD5 inhibitors. And the thing was, they they worked in my case, but I was still struggling with the fact that it wasn't like it was before, and it was also like not looking how it was looking before
Mm-hmm.
down there. And some cases, well, in some, not some cases, but in sometimes, you know, even looking downstairs, quote unquote downstairs, gave me incredible anxiety, because it kind of looked, it almost like looked disfigured. And I, was, extremely scared and had no idea what exactly
Right.
was going on. So yeah.
Very, very scary, very terrifying, obviously, especially when you're young, for this to happen. So then let's fast forward to, how did you find us? How did you find me? How did you find Pelvic Heal in our coaching program?
Yeah. Well, it was in, I think, in the middle of May, and after, countless, I spent, oh, Jesus, several, maybe in all, at least like 2 days, the equivalent of 2 days in all kinds of forums and Reddit posts and whatever, to get some information, to find a solution, to just, at least, what exactly is going on. And I came to the conclusion that this has to do is something with my pelvic floor. So I
Hmm.
was, in the beginning, try to search a pelvic floor therapist, physical therapist. But the thing here in my country is that, um, you know, pelvic floor in general, it is an area of the body which is, not not very well researched, and to find a physical therapist is kind of, difficult. But to find a physical therapist that, knows how to work with the male pelvic floor is even more difficult. So,
Hmm.
but I was kind of lucky in that I found someone, a woman, but she was, mostly treating women, and, I was calling her, made an appointment, and spent, all in all, about $500 or so for several sessions with her. But she also said to me at one point, yeah, to be honest, I don't really know how to treat men because, of course, pelvic floor, and I've got a nice colleague, and I asked her maybe what to do, but, yeah, it was very disappointing. And so that was my first experience with, a pelvic floor physical therapist. But then
Okay.
months later, and all of this was still going on, and it was, in that month before I found, um, a good physical therapist, pelvic floor physical therapist. There was a lot of things going on, and so I said to myself, in the last desperate attempt, I will, try to use, Google research, and I found someone from the United States, did a call with him, and he was, sending me, your contact data, which I'm
And
very
we're
thankful
very
for.
happy, Peter, that you found this particular physical therapist. This is someone that we work with very closely. This is someone that we endorse. One of the challenges with pelvic floor physical therapy, and you've touched on this, is that, not that many therapists in the United States, in Germany, in most countries, not that many therapists focus on it. And to your point, male pelvic pain physical therapy is even more rare. So it sounds like it took you quite a bit of time to actually find someone. Time, frustration, money. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, it is, and especially the fact that, it's thinking back about this whole process, is it felt as if I was standing in front of a giant concrete wall, and there was whatever I tried or did, there was no way for me to get over this, and that feeling itself, it's devastating, and it really can break you down into yeah, just into pieces,
And that's so tough when you don't have someone to communicate with. When you go to
Yeah,
each doctor and they're not communicating with each other, it's kind of a, uh, disconnected system. They're all in their own silos. They're not speaking with each other. So it makes it really, really challenging. And as you know, I went through that as well. Why don't you just bring us up to speed, Peter, and tell us a little bit about where you are now, kind of what's changed for you, what you're focused on, not just now, but for the future. And then we can take it from there.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, in the beginning, when we first met, Christian, we had our first call. I was, due to the all the things, all this desperation, all this panic, all this fear, all this, also neglect from specialists, all the money that I spent, everything in general has put me in um such an incredible dark place that I was I was completely broken. And so you know just thinking about this again and remembering it back, it was, first of all, you have the feeling, because again, the forums are basically you know um unluckily they're the only research tool you have. And you, as I said, you're reading all these terrible stories and horror stories and stuff. You have nobody to talk to. Like there's like really nobody. And if you go to the doctor, they don't take you seriously at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was, and I remember our first call exactly and how I felt. It was extremely relieving for me to, for me to open up to somebody, because I was all alone with this for several months. And because, this is, such a sensitive topic. And also felt very, 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 very ashamed. And, I told like zero people, from my peers about it. No, didn't open up to any friends, to anyone from my family. And, it was very relieving for me to talk to somebody, and that I had somebody who listens to me, and someone who takes me seriously and understands me to what I'm, you know, to what I'm going through.
Yeah, and someone that's been through it and can understand. So thank you. We appreciate that. So it sounds like that first kind of discovery call that we had when you and I were becoming acquainted was somewhat of a relief. And then take me through kind of from that point, Peter, to 12 weeks later, where you are now, how you're feeling, how things are functioning, and kind of what life looks like now for you.
Yeah. Well, the coaching, or better said, to get help from you, and also from someone else from the program, Jamie. It you know it's hard for me to say, because in the beginning, at first, I was so desperate and so hopeless regarding this, that I was even thinking, yeah, you know what, there's no way on earth I will, can overcome this on a mentally and a physical level. But because, again, this is like, you with this, you were like all alone. And I began to realize that the two of you are actually, you're taking me seriously, and you are listening to me, and I can open up to you. And that's kind of helped me to get out of this deep dark hole I was in for all of these weeks and months. Slowly but surely helped me to get out of it, because again, I realized that this is what's happening right now to you. It doesn't have to be temporary. You have to work on yourself, on the way you think. You need to And maybe it sounds silly, but you need to get out of bed, and even if it's like, take a walk around the block or so, and stop ordering takeout all the time, and all this, taking these baby steps, um, helped me to get out of this hole. And I wouldn't be able to, to have to take these baby steps without the advice that you and Jamie gave me. And so, what I can, I'm now in this position. I'm looking into the future, because back then I was giving up on almost everything because I was unable to do the things that I enjoyed in the past, like zero to nothing. And so, yeah, you know, I need to finish the stuff that I have to do that is like left for me. I'm still on the road to recovery. My symptoms, and this is maybe also important for me to mention that, and that's what it just happened. A few weeks after we worked together, I began to see that my symptoms, are slowly like getting better. I had periods where I would consider myself maybe 85% completely healed. And, that was the initial sign for me. Okay, there's a way out of this, and you're very close, but you still have to continue to work. That's very important. And the two of you were able to, lift me up again and give me the advice that I needed. It was, before the coaching, I was in this state of, I think it's called, I just didn't, I didn't care about my life anymore. Like, like, because again, there's the only thing I was doing or was able to do was like working. I was just working. And after work, I got home, went into bed, and yeah, just try not to think anymore, And I was in this, kind of state of mind for maybe like a month. And after this, after that, I thought, listen, I can't live like this. I don't want to live like this. And yeah, let's put it like this. I was on the edge of ending myself.
Yeah. So obviously things were at an extremely low point before and during our coaching together, and now they've risen to a much higher point. So you mentioned kind of the private coaching, the coaching from me, the coaching from Jamie, who we paired you up with. She's one of our coaches here at Pelvic Heal. Uh, just because you worked with her quite a bit, what can you say, or what can you share a little bit about the coach that we paired you up with, and kind of your experience with her?
Mhm. Me and Jamie, we got along pretty good. And I think that's because, she's a very good and active listener. And after, there were days, and especially when I had a, bad day at work or so, or a bad week in general, on top of pelvic floor dysfunction and sexual dysfunction,
Mm-hmm.
all of this, um, I could talk to her, and she kind of put the thoughts, the things that I said, into the right position. It's like I threw pieces of puzzles at her, and she kind of advised me how to put the puzzle in the right order and back again. I think that's a pretty
So
good.
that kind
Uh,
of direct communication, Peter, and that kind of accountability, and the weekly communication with your coach, do you feel like that was helpful for you?
100%, 100%. 200%.
Yeah, and that's one of the differences with Pelvic Heal. There's some other, programs out there where you pay a bunch of money and they just give you some videos to look at, but people are pretty much left to their own
Yeah.
devices and you have to kind of figure it out. I was wondering if you could speak to Peter a little bit about the value of actually having a real person, a real expert that's been through pelvic pain like myself, and
Yeah.
coaches that have been trained in pelvic pain and accountability coaching, the value of actually having a real person to hold you accountable through the process versus just paying a bunch of money and getting some more information or getting some videos. I'm curious about your feelings on that, having gone through it.
It's funny you mentioned that because I think I didn't mention that, but I was also I was paying well, in my case, a lot of money for a program in which I just received. I don't want to bash this program, but it was good information and some videos, but that's all I had. And it is, human beings are meant to communicate. They're social beings, and especially with this kind of terrible condition, I think it's one of the most important things to have someone you can talk to and talk to directly, even if it's a even if it's a video call. But you have these appointments every week, and they're holding you accountable. And there were some parts sometimes where I was like even thinking to myself, oh, I promised Jamie, for an instance, to take my walks like every day, and I'm not in the mood of taking my walk. I just want to be home and do nothing. But then, again, you have these calls every week, and it pops up in your mind. You're like, oh well, I need to take them because I have my call with her on, Wednesday, Friday, Thursday, whatever. And so, I have to do it because I can't lie to her. So
So it sounds like that accountability, knowing that you have someone there kind of looking over your shoulder, someone that's going to
exactly.
be holding you accountable the next week, kind of influenced, Peter, some of the actions that you need to take to move you forward. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, of course, and I need to I need to watch out my words because again, I'm not a native English speaker, but I think let me put it this way: it's of extreme high value to have someone to talk to on a weekly basis. You know. Mm. But even I want to say this. There are there are some things, and this is where you come into play because you went through all of this. Is that when it comes to advice, even if it's medication or I had several occasions uh, in which I wasn't sure if I should try this or if this or that helps, doesn't help. I was able to ask someone, and at first and I sadly I can remember this occasion. There was one very terrible mistake I made in which I was at first hesitant to ask you about your opinion about this, and I did it anyway, and it was totally devastating. And right now I'm in the point in which I can at least a little bit laugh about this, but at the end of the day it was a horrible experience for me. But even after it, I contacted you and I was like, Christian, listen, I made a huge mistake. I need to talk to you, and you were there for me.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you. I do remember that. We've had a few of
Mhm.
those, and that's been kind of the pleasure of working together. But yes, working together, Peter, having someone to lean on in real time to kind of get those answers from or get some feedback from, I think is key. What would have happened perhaps if you just had a regular course that you paid for and you're just looking at videos and you're going through that? that experience?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I mean, I've been at this point. I bought one of these courses, and you get these information. And the thing is, with with information itself, and with this topic, it is you get information, and with every bit of information you get, like 5 to 10 questions pop up in your head, and there's like no source you can go to and ask them about what about this and what about that and if that happens, and so yeah.
Yeah. And even if you do, it's typically just typing in somewhere and then they'll respond to you, or maybe
Yeah.
even do a video response, which is fine, but it's just not as personal, not as timely. Um, Before we started working together, Peter, I know you had a lot of frustrating experiences with other providers, other doctors, other physical therapists, things like that. What were some of your concerns? You recall having any concerns that you had, or like a main concern before starting this coaching program with us here at Pelvic Heal?
You mean about the coaching
Concerns
program?
about working, yeah, before working with us. Like, did you have any concerns about moving forward before you did?
Well, the thing is, I was in such a dark place, and that well, I had no concerns about anything at all anymore, and I was just thinking, well, at least I can try, you know. And again, even this thought of at least I can try was kind of was a progress for me, but because even I got sick of even trying things, you know.
And would you mind sharing with us a little bit about, if you could just be general about kind of like what your plans are now for the future? We know that you're a
Mhm.
young man, 30. What are you looking to do moving forward now, now that you're
Yeah.
feeling better and back to some sense of normalcy?
Yeah, I want to move forward in my career. I want to get back on track regarding that, because I had a lot of plans before all of this happened, and all of these plans got thrown overboard. And I was, most of the time of these, all of these months ago, I was just concerned and, trying to find answers, trying to find help, trying to find solutions. And so now I found my solutions. I know what I have to do. I know what I should not do, because, and this is also very important, I think, to mention that because of this, I got into like very bad habits, and I, don't want to mention them here, but, like kind of toxic habits that are not beneficial for your overall health in general. And so I know I stopped them like completely by now. And again, these are all things I know what to do, and I know what I should not do. And so again, for the future, my career is very important. I want to get back into the gym. I want to get back on track with my hobbies, and I just want to enjoy life again. Here's an opportunity. Let's take this. But I wasn't all too ambitious in what I did, and the most valuable thing in life that you have is your health. And once you find out how devastating it is to lose your health and to lose your life with it, you begin you begin to realize how precious health and life is in general.
Wow. And for those listening and might hear you say, when I'm recovered from this, and hear you say everything that you're looking to do, I just want to make it clear, and you let me know what you think, of course, that terminology, that mindset, when I'm recovered from this, and all of the goals that you just laid out, that wasn't even really available to you when we first started working together. I don't think, in my
Yeah.
opinion, Peter, I don't think that was even a possibility in your mind that you
Yeah.
would be getting better. What would you have to say about that? Would you agree?
Well,
Or
it's absolutely true. um because there's losing hope is one thing, but there's if you're like in a void of nothingness, nothing really cares. You don't care about anything anymore, and that is where I was. And so this thought of getting better, mm, getting healed, living life again, to say it was far away is untrue, because it wasn't even there. It was in the void. There's nothing, and it was just me in just 100% depression. And so
Yeah.
it's
So
100% true
you
what you said.
thank you. You came to us in a really, really dark place, and that's one of the hardest things with chronic pelvic pain, sexual dysfunction, that it's just really dark, depressing. And that's what I went through as well. I'm curious, through this coaching experience that you had with us here at Pelvic Heal, what was your favorite part of that process, your favorite thing?
To be honest, um, and I don't want to. I don't know what's the right word is in English. I think it's I don't want to. I don't want to be a kiss up. Is that the right word? But
It could be, but
yeah,
let us know.
it was always uplifting. It was always giving me this streaks of hope, and letting me know that we're there for you, and you're under even you understand me, and have empathy for me. And so these were actually my favorite part. It was more like a like talking to a good friend, you know.
Yeah, and thank you, Peter. That's such an important aspect of chronic pelvic pain and sexual dysfunction. And I think this is one of the reasons why it's so difficult for most people to recover from, and most people never do, is because there's really not one way to address it, right? It's biological in nature, it's psychological in nature, it's social in nature, right? So you have all of these different aspects going on, right? And it's creating this pain and this anxiety and this dysfunction. So it really needs to be addressed in a multitude of ways. And that's what we're doing here at Pelvic Heal. And we feel that that really is the difference to helping clients get results, right? The psychological side, the social side, and of course, the physical, what to do, how to move your body, what type of physical therapy should you do. And we're lucky to have a great physical therapy protocol, and one of the best pelvic pain physical therapists in the world who we partnered with, that we can provide to our clients. So I'm really happy that you touched on that, and having these different ways to approach it, I really think is the difference. And I think that's why so many people are struggling. That's why I struggled. And it could take months, if not years, for people to figure this out on their own.
Yeah, exactly. And this is very important that you mentioned this, because this is a condition. It needs to be attacked from every angle possible. You know, from a physiological level, from a psychological level, from an emotional level. These are all things that will help you to recover much, much faster, because it's like a it's like a you know it's like a chain. And if you let one link of the chain, if you let it be weak, the chain itself, it's like extremely weak, and it's can break it very easy. And so the thing about I think people underestimate how much this affects um, your emotional psychological health. And that's when I began to realize, because again, this was a process over months. And at first I had no idea what was wrong with me. I just it began with I was just constantly feeling tired, and I was, oh, maybe I'm working too much, but again, it needs to be attacked from every angle possible, because people underestimate how important every single aspect of the chain is, as I mentioned. And so there's usually a trigger event, and most of us, you put it very accurately once. You said, I will go to my grave and I will probably never know exactly what the trigger event was, or what exactly was happening. And so, and it's the same for me. But again, there's usually this trigger event, and that event triggers everything else that is, you know, uh, uh, weak in yourself. And by weak, I mean triggers like things maybe got things that happened in your childhood, because this trigger event.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let me just find the right words here. This trigger event um, causes pain in your pelvic floor and dysfunction in your pelvic floor, and so everything else is coming up, and it gets mixed together, and you end up with this whole turmoil of stuff. And again, of course, yes, it's an emotional and a psychological thing, but it needs to be addressed on a physical level, I think.
Yes, and I'm so glad that you mentioned that, not just the emotional, psychological, but the physical. So that's where, we've just partnered with the number one physical therapist in the world for chronic pelvic pain. And I've spent myself years and probably well over 10,000 US dollars just on physical therapy alone with 4 different physical therapists. Um, 99% of them didn't really help me that much until I found this one very specific and unique way to approach muscle-based pelvic pain.
Yeah.
And that's why we're incorporating it in our program, because like you said, it's not just the physical, it's the emotional, psychological, the social. We need to attack it. And I love the fact that you use the word attack, because you were fighting for your life. You were fighting for your life. I was fighting for my life. We can't just sit back, Peter, and allow this to take our lives over, or else it will. We need a plan of attack. We need to be aggressive. We need to understand that we're in the fight of our lives here. And I think the clients that are coming to Pelvic Heal and that will continue to come to Pelvic Heal are ready. They're ready to go on the offensive. They are ready to get to work. They're ready to be held accountable. And that's why you're having success now, and you're moving forward, and you have goals, and you're out of that rut, and your mindset's better because number
Mhm.
one, you were coachable. Number two, you were open-minded. And number three, you did the work. You listened to me. You listened to your coach, to Coach Jamie, and you took action. You were held accountable. We're just so proud of what you're doing now, and not just what you're doing now, what you're going to do in the future. And we feel like you're part of the family here, which is what we want for all of our clients, because this is such a personal and sensitive topic. So just kind of moving to wrap this up here, I'm curious, Peter, what would you say to the men out there that are seeing Pelvic Heal online? They're curious about it. Maybe they've seen some of my videos. Maybe they're coming to the website. Maybe they're looking at some testimonies like this, and they're considering the Pelvic Heal coaching program and everything that we're putting together here. What would you have to say to those men that are considering this?
Yeah. Well, before, and excuse me, but I need to say this. Maybe the thing that I said before, again, English is not my first language. Maybe it was a bit confusing what I said, but I just hope you and the people out there, you got the point. Okay.
Regarding,
Yeah, regarding this, what I mentioned with the again with the triggering event, and it triggers other emotional problems, and all of these come to you at once, and then it's all of this big mess that it's in your life. It's not the pelvic pain and everything else, and relationship problems, and I just want to make sure that you got the point.
Oh, absolutely. It makes a lot of sense. I picture it, the way I picture it is like a big blender, like one of those blenders that you would use to blend a nice smoothie or a protein shake. And everything is just being thrown in the blender. The
Mm-hmm.
physical pain, the emotional pain, the depression, the sorrow, the anxiety, the fear. All of these negative emotions are just going in that blender, and that blender is getting the contents of the blender are increasing and increasing and increasing
Mm-hmm.
until it just explodes.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
explodes, and it's a nightmare. That's the problem. It's impossible to stick your hand in the blender once the blender is operating and pull out the banana,
Mm-hmm.
or say, oh, I'm going to pull out the
Yeah.
strawberry, or I'm going to pull out the milk. It's all blended.
Mm-hmm.
It's all blended. So how do you attack something that's already been blended and is coming at you in that cyclonic fashion, right? You have to attack it in different ways, right? You have to get in there, get inside there, and really dissect every piece of each content, right? Every piece there. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing at Pelvic Heal. It's not just the physical, it's not just the emotional, right? It's not just the psychological. It's everything. It's everything. This is really a personal development program, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guised as under the guise of uh, helping clients relieve pelvic pain, because of the reality is, if your internal world is not operating correctly, if your mindset's not right, if your psychology isn't right, if you're not living a healthy lifestyle, it's going to be very difficult to relieve that pain and relieve that anxiety and relieve that stress. So we have to work on the inside for the outside to manifest, and that's what we're doing here.
You know, yeah, thanks for clearing it up a little. I was just a little concerned that it sounded too confusing what I said. So,
Not to me, but thank you for that. So getting back to again, Peter, just for those men out there that are considering the pelvic pain program, maybe they're looking at some videos that I'm posting. Maybe they've come to the website and they've watched, my lengthy video there. Maybe they're watching some testimonials. Maybe they've been through many doctors, many physical therapists, and they're struggling in pain for at least 3 to 6 months or longer, and all the tests are negative. There's really nothing physically wrong with them, and they're considering the Pelvic Heal coaching program. What would you say to these men that are considering our program? What would you recommend to them?
well, for the first thing I want to, to share from me is empathy, and that what you have is real. It's not in your head. Um, and I can totally understand the emotional turmoil that it brings with it, with all the symptoms, with all the, real life stuff, that are occurring because of the symptoms, problems with work. Maybe you can't work properly anymore. Maybe you make mistakes at work because, the pain is like distracting, and family problems, and, all this kind of stuff. It is real and it's happening to you, and it's terrifying and it's bad. That's the first thing I want to say. And the thing is that maybe right now it seems like that there's no way out of it, but there's a high chance that with the right guidance, with the right people that you can talk to, that can give you the right advice that you need, um, there's a very high chance that you can overcome this. But right now, I can totally understand that it's terrifying. And, you're asking you all the questions that I did. Why me? And why did this happen? And I feel so ashamed about this. All this terrible, terrible thinking in your head. Um, you know, it is important for you to realize that it doesn't have to be there forever. And that Pelvic Heal for me did so much for me, and literally saved me in so many ways. And that I just can say to these people, if you decide to get coached by Pelvic Heal, you're in good hands. You're in good and safe hands, and these people will take you seriously, and they will listen to you, and they will give you the advice that you need. And especially you, Christian, you're the best example because, again, you were struggling with all of this for several years and you overcame it. And so this should be, it should be important for the people to know that Christian overcame it, and so can you, you know.
No, thank you, Peter. We really do appreciate that. And it's also important for people to know, and they'll hear me say this in other videos, that there's no difference between you and me. There's no difference between them and me. I'm just a normal person. I am not a Superman, right? I have struggles. I have challenges. I have things in my life that I've had to overcome. So if I can do this, they can do it too. And you've proven that. Of course, it takes some belief and it takes some courage and it takes a leap of faith, especially when someone is handing over their time and their hard-earned money to someone. But we certainly appreciate what you've said. And at the end of the day, the one thing that we will promise is that people will be treated well. They'll be treated with respect, and they will receive the empathy that they deserve and that they have potentially not received from the medical community. And that's what people need the most, because this is such a sensitive thing. So thank you for that. We're super excited to follow your progress and your success in the years to come and everything you're going to do. Thank you for your testimony.